Okay, so Chancellor has reminded me I need to do this. Good morning. My name is Doug Browning. As the Chair of the Board of Trustees of the University of Pittsburgh, I would like to welcome everyone to the fall meeting of the Board. This is my first full Board meeting as Chair. I look forward to working with my fellow trustees and the larger Pitt community in advancing the mission and goals of our great university. This meeting has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act and is therefore open to members of the public as observers. This meeting is also being streamed on the university's YouTube channel and is being recorded. The recording will be made available later via the Board of Trustees website. This is a hybrid meeting with attendees who are in person as well as others who are joining us virtually, and those who are joining us virtually, I'd also like to welcome you. I would like to acknowledge and welcome our ex officio trustees or their designees who are in attendance today. Dr. Tanya I. Garcia is the Deputy Secretary and Commissioner of Post-Secondary and Higher Education, Pennsylvania Department of Education, and is the designee of the Secretary of Education. Tanya, welcome. County Executive and our good friend Rich Fitzgerald, who is also an ex officio member of our board, County Exec. I would also like to welcome 5 new trustees voted in at our annual meeting, who are either attending their first meeting today or have graciously returned after a year hiatus to serve on the board for another term. We would like to welcome our 3 first-time trustees, David Frederick, Jeff Marchak, and Val Njai. And I would like to welcome back our 2 returning trustees, Eva Bloom, our former board chair, and Dawn Hickton. We are pleased that you are here today. I know that I speak on behalf of the entire university community in expressing our thanks and appreciation for your willingness to serve this university. We look forward to your contributions as members of this board. Sadly, since the annual meeting in June, several trustees have lost family members, as have many members of our Pitt and local community. On behalf of the board, I offer my sincere condolences to all those who have recently lost loved ones. Please join me in a moment of silence in recognition of their loss. Thank you. The minutes of the June Board of Trustees meeting were distributed to you in advance of today's meeting and can be found in the meeting materials. I would like to ask if there are any corrections or additions to the minutes. Hearing none, may I ask for a motion of approval and a second? Second. Thank you. The minutes as circulated are hereby approved. I want to open up our meeting with just some general remarks on a very important matter. As many of you are aware, the university and the board has this week, with the announcement of the search committee, officially launched the search for the next chancellor of the University of Pittsburgh. The 26-person committee is composed of a diverse cross-section of our university community members. I am grateful that all of the individuals who accepted the invitation to serve were willing to devote the substantial time and effort necessary to be contributing and impactful members of that committee. I also want to thank Eva Bloom and Anantha Shaker, who are the chair and vice chair of that committee. Under their able leadership, I am confident that this committee will provide the board with an excellent slate of candidates for our consideration. We have also selected the Starbeck search firm to assist the committee with this search. Starbeck, by the way, consulted with us on the last Chancellor search and has put together a team for this effort that has extensive experience working on searches for presidents and chancellors of research universities like the University of Pittsburgh. Working with the Starbeck firm, Eva and Anantha have already began to gather feedback on the profile, qualifications, and characteristics we will be looking for in our next chancellor. To that end, they have already set up focus groups, listening sessions, a survey to get your input, and a website to keep you informed on our progress. While much of the work of the committee must happen in secret to protect the confidentiality of those involved, Eva will keep me and the board updated on their progress, and we will provide updates as appropriate. Javette, what I would ask you to do is, can you give us that website for the search, please?
Sure. It's pi.tt/chancellor-search.
Thank you.
Say that 3 times fast.
All right. I'd like to now turn to the Pitt Alumni Association. The fall meeting of the board includes an annual report from the Pitt Alumni Association. The board has a very close affiliation with the Pitt Alumni Association. In fact, more than half of our trustees are alumnus of the University of Pittsburgh. I would like to introduce the current president of the Pitt Alumni Association, Richard Sidori. Richard is the general counsel for Westquip North America's, a leading manufacturer of waste handling equipment. Prior to joining Westquip in 2013, he was the general counsel for Transtar Industries and Axiom Automotive Technologies, and he has held several senior legal, human resources, and administrative positions in Fortune 500 companies. Rich was recognized as the General Counsel of the Year by the Charlotte Business Journal in 2018 and nationally as a top 50 corporate counsel by Icon in 2020, 2021, and 2022. Rich received his JD from the University of Pittsburgh and has dual undergraduate degrees in business and political science from the University of Pittsburgh. He is a triple Pitt. Rich.
Thank you. Hello, trustees and friends. As you just heard, I am Rich Sidori, president of the Pitt Alumni Association. Thank you for inviting me to be here with you today. As you can see, I am a 2-time Pitt grad and a proud one. My experiences on this campus set the foundation for my career as an attorney, and I will always be grateful. I joined the PAA board in 2015, served as president-elect for 2 years, and began my term as president this past July. The system of having presidents serve both before and after their terms prepared me well for this role, and I want to thank Val and Jai for her mentorship and leadership. I look forward to working with her and Vice Chancellor Nancy Merritt as we steer the PAA into the future. And now I'm pleased to share both our highlights from the past year and our plans for 2023. First, let me introduce you to our board. Pitt Alumni Association board members are dedicated volunteer leaders who work to advance Pitt's mission and strive to enrich the lives of current and future Pitt alumni. We pride ourselves on engagement and representation, ensuring our board reflects a diversity of our roughly 350,000 alumni worldwide. Our board members span generations, geography, race, and ethnicity. They represent all schools and colleges and 3 regional campuses and have one important quality in common, a dedication to the University of Pittsburgh. Last year, not only did these board members give of their time, but every one of them made an annual gift to the university. Those voluntary donations of both talent and treasure and that type of dedication is imperative as we strive to grow and strengthen our alumni network. We know that for many of our alumni, the PAA is the single thread that connects them to their alma mater. We take that responsibility seriously. It is our goal to align our priorities with those of the university and maintain a mutually beneficial relationship. So how do we do that? Chancellor Gallagher often says he wants students to leave the university with 3 things: a degree, a plan, and a network. Now, we obviously can't grant the first, but the Pitt Alumni Association is uniquely positioned to help our students and alumni with the second and third, developing their plans and growing their networks. This is where we fit in. We are the plan and network. It begins with our priorities: enrich the lives of alumni and students, strengthen the Pitt network, and inspire current and future alumni to advance the university mission. Let's take a look at the first priority. One of the ways we enrich the lives of our alumni is through content-driven programming. These online and in-person opportunities help to broaden perspectives, ignite conversations, and cultivate curiosity across the entire Pitt community. 2 of our signature programs are the Women in Leadership Conference and PAA Presents. PAA Presents allows us to partner with schools and colleges around areas of common expertise. The goal is to draw upon skills and experience of our alumni and faculty and showcase our programs, particularly those that cut across disciplines or are unique to Pitt. In the spring, we were fortunate to partner with Provost Cudd as she discussed global leadership with 2 accomplished alumni, Masagoe Masire Mwamba, Botswana's ambassador to Germany, and Dr. Hanan El Hamadi, the first female assistant speaker of the Shura Council in Saudi Arabia. Also this spring, the Muslim Alumni Network and the Alumni Network co-hosted the 2nd annual Women in Leadership Conference. This event promotes wellness and professional development for women of all identities and featured a slate of inspiring speakers, including Pittsburgh policymakers and entrepreneurs. Many of you are also familiar with our deliberative dialogue series, which promotes constructive conversations around challenging topics, and Pitt Perspectives, which will return in the coming months with a series on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. While we are an alumni organization, we emphasize the experience of our 350,000 alumni. We also believe it's vital to connect with students, our future alumni. We want them to feel a sense of belongingness to the Pitt community and understand that their relationship with Pitt doesn't just span the years they are on campus, it lasts a lifetime. 2 events that foster those student to alumni connections are send-offs, when our chapters celebrate new students as they head off for their first year at Pitt, and Panthers in the Field, where students meet with alumni and ask questions that help chart their futures. This event is really an entree to the extensive offerings of the Pitt Alumni Career Network. The Career Network is made up of 3 unique platforms designed to enhance digital engagement and create on-demand access to the Pitt network. Pitt Commons is our online networking community. Since its inception, we have leveraged this network to broker thousands of connections between students and alumni for formal and informal mentorship. Ask Pitt Alumni uses artificial intelligence to connect students and recent graduates seeking advice to the alumni who are most likely to answer. This is a great tool for those who need quick answers to pressing career questions or who find asking for advice a bit daunting. We're also extremely proud of our expanded presence on LinkedIn. We've managed to harness the power of this universal job hunting tool for our alumni. Not only is our presence there growing, but it's an easy way for alumni to tap into the power of the Pitt network. As an example of just how central this career building component is to the Pitt Alumni Association, the Alumni Relations team will be hiring a Director of Alumni Career Solutions this year. The Director's mission will be to further enhance career and professional development offerings and increase desired career outcomes for our alumni network. In order to accomplish these lofty goals, we need a steady foundation. We need to strengthen our alumni community and ensure our constituents know how to best access and tap into all the PAA has to offer. We jump-started that effort this summer with a social media campaign encouraging our graduates to reconnect with the university, network with fellow alumni, and become more involved with the Pitt Alumni Association. Here we feature Kevin Zedak, a volunteer in the Chesapeake and Potomac chapter, and one of the 2022 PAA Alumni Award winners. The campaign highlighted numerous opportunities to connect, engage, and take advantage of the many resources, programs, and events that are available in the global Pitt network. We chose to utilize a social campaign for a very good reason. Our social network is robust and still growing. You'll see on this chart how much our impressions have increased in the past few years. Impressions are the total number of times content was viewed. In fiscal year 2022, the PAA totaled almost 10 million impressions across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's an increase of 54% over 2021, and a true mark of how powerful this network can be. Our engagement also grew last year, because engagement shows how many actions were taken by users, how many times they shared, commented on, and reacted to our content. It's a terrific indicator of their interest in our messaging. Engagement grew 13% in 2022, so we know our alumni are truly interested and invested in what the PAA has to say. Another way we're strengthening our Pitt Alumni Network is by tapping into our global presence. We have alumni living and working in cities across the world who want to celebrate their Pitt pride and be included in the Pitt community. PAA staff members traveled extensively this year: Puerto Rico, Belgium, Italy, the Netherlands, and the Czech Republic, to meet with international alumni, gather their feedback, and stoke their affection for Pitt. We are also showcasing some of our most prominent and influential international alumni on our website. For example, the two women shown, June Felix and Lucia Dammert, are shaking up the male-dominated worlds of fintech and South American politics. Their stories not only show how far a Pitt education can take you, but they inspire pride in our community. One of the most important functions of any alumni organization is to build a sense of community for our alumni. We want them to feel a part of something larger, something meaningful, and to contribute to the lasting health of that community. Our regional chapters and affinity networks are truly at the heart of this effort, ensuring that no matter where our alumni live and work, they keep that lifelong link to Pitt. Just a few weeks ago, we celebrated the 102nd Lantern Night. As you know, the first 100 years of this tradition honored the women who broke down barriers and forged new paths at Pitt. We remain committed to their memory, but we also strive to acknowledge students of all genders who seek a sense of community and belonging to this university today. They are the pioneers who will break future barriers and forge new paths. This policy of including all first-year and transfer students has been well received by our students. A record 2,400 students attended this year's ceremony. Of course, our signature events exist to buoy that university pride. Homecoming is our largest undertaking of the year, when we invite our alumni to return to campus for a slate of engaging and entertaining events. Homecoming 2022 is right around the corner, and registration is open, so if you have not reserved your spot, I urge you to do that now. It's going to be an exciting time. When we talk about what inspires our alumni, we also look inward. You may see someone or some additional individuals you recognize in the photo on the left. Our alumni network includes so many accomplished professionals, selfless volunteers, and unrelenting cheerleaders who we honor at our annual Alumni Awards ceremony, which will also take place during Homecoming Week. But the foundation of our Pitt alumni community is built by everyone who engages in ways big and small, by those who sign up to be Pitt advocates, who volunteer at local food banks, and who support their favorite school organization on Pitt Day of Giving. We need all of us working together to accomplish our goals. I want to emphasize that last phrase. We need all of us working together. That can happen in a variety of ways. As you know, the PAA Board commissioned an Equity and Social Justice Task Force in 2020. The report and recommendations the task force developed truly serve as a guidepost for our organization, and we've carefully implemented many of those recommendations over the past 18 months. I want to emphasize one of those recommendations today, and that is the advancement of our alumni affinity groups. These groups are made up of alumni who shared identities and experiences and gives them the opportunity to grow and develop their own programs, while also ensuring the greater community lives up to its promise of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. The Alumni Relations team has launched a national search for a Director of Identity Networks and Special Projects so that we can continue to expand our affinity networks and partner with others at the university to advance diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. We also work together internally within Pitt. The PAA Board shares a strong relationship with PAA staff members. Vice Chancellor for Alumni Relations Nancy Merritt leads that charge, enabling us to work together to engage alumni and students. Recent staff departures have presented an opportunity for Nancy to reorganize her staff to better align to our strategic plan and collaborate with other groups and departments at Pitt. We look forward with great anticipation to helping Nancy and her staff fill the current vacancies. The PAA Board and alumni are also available to engage in the search for Pitt's next chancellor. The Executive Committee and the entire board stands ready to assist the search committee, and we're happy to leverage some of the lessons we learned through the pandemic in order to connect and engage alumni in this process. But we also need your help. The best measure of a great university is truly made through the lives of students who went there. Today, there are hundreds of thousands of students and alumni who have achieved success by virtue of the education and opportunities they received at the University of Pittsburgh. As I mentioned earlier, we collectively are the plan and network for our students and alumni. My challenge to each of you is to embrace that opportunity, get engaged, volunteer, reach out, sign up, and connect. Show up and be accessible, and help build that network within a culture of trust, respect, and belonging. As you can see, we have accomplished a great deal this year and are always forging ahead, looking for ways to give our alumni the programming, opportunities, and outcomes they deserve. Thank you for supporting us in that endeavor and for inviting me to present to you today. Again, thank you, and hail to Pitt.
Are there any members of the board who have questions? Rich, are there any members of the board that have any questions for Rich? If not, let me thank you for your report, okay? And appreciate it. Thanks me so much. We will now receive updates from the committees of the board, which have held public meetings since our last annual board meeting in June. Larry Mallow, the chair of our budget committee, is unable to be with us today, but Larry has asked a member of his committee, Najdi Abulaban, if he would make the report of the committee. Najdi, please.
Thank you, Chair Browning. A joint public meeting of the Executive and Budget Committees was held via Zoom on July 14th, 2022. At that meeting, members of the Budget Committee recommended that the Executive Committee of the Board of Trustees approve the university's proposed $2.7 billion fiscal 2023 operating budget, which included tuition increased well below the rate of inflation, along with modest salary increases for faculty and staff. The Budget Committee also recommended the approval of the proposed $667.1 million capital budget. Following the approval of the budgets, The meeting was adjourned. Chair Browning, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Najdi. Any questions from members of the board for Najdi? If not, let me ask Pete Varasketti, the chair of the Properties and Facilities Committee, to provide his report. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Chairperson Browning. On September 13th, 2022, the Property and Facilities Committee held a public meeting at which one proposal was reviewed and approved. The committee approved a project to upgrade the Posvar chilled water plant, including renovation and upgrades to 3 existing cooling towers, purchase of 2 new 2,250-ton chillers, installation of a new underground chilled water distribution and stormwater piping, and installation of a 250,000-gallon underground stormwater collection tank. This work is required to support campus growth, address aging equipment, and expand and upgrade the campus chilled water distribution system. The new stormwater tank and distribution piping will capture and reuse stormwater to reduce the university's impact on the city's stormwater infrastructure. The committee approved this project in the amount of $18,800,000. This project is projected to generate 93 construction jobs and 37 support jobs for the state and regional economies. Chairperson Browning, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Pete. Any questions for Pete?
Yeah.
All right. If not, we will now turn to the report of the Chancellor, Chancellor Gallagher. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Chair Browning. I want to congratulate Doug on, as he presides his first public meeting as chair of our board on his birthday. What a unique way to celebrate. So happy birthday. Before diving in, Rich, I just wanted to thank you for your remarks from the PAA. It is a remarkably busy and productive time. And I just wanted to remind everybody, higher education has an interesting problem. When the students are here working hard, what they get is a degree. But the value of that degree happens after they leave here. So at a time when we're discussing the value proposition of higher ed, we have to connect universities with their alumni, because that's really where the realization of all that we do happens. And I just want to thank the PAA, the leadership, the board, and all the members, all of our alumni, hundreds of thousands across the world, for making that possible. So thank you very much. I also want to extend my, my welcome to our newest trustees, Jeff, David, Val. I know we've been working together, but it's great to welcome you officially to the board and your first public board meeting, and it's wonderful to have you on board. I couldn't resist, sorry. I also want to just thank all of our trustees. We have the public meeting and we gather together. What most people don't see is that this is a culmination of hours and hours of hard work in the committees covering all of the many activities of the university. I want you to know how deeply I appreciate all that hard work, your commitment to the university, your support and your guidance as we continue to make Pitt a better place. The September board meeting is historically, and it is in this year as well, when I deliver my annual report to the board. So this is my chance to summarize what the university has done over the past year. And it's been my privilege to do that each and every year since I first started in 2014 as your 18th chancellor. This is likely my last annual report. And so I'm going to take a little time to not only review the year, but I'd like to put it in the context of the progress the university has made over the past decade, because I think you'll see we've made important progress over time that has really added up. And so for the next 3 hours, I will slowly review every detail. Just kidding. Let's begin with our academic mission. Now, There's a lot of things we use to measure our progress here. It obviously depends on our faculty, our students, our programs, our quality, and our outcomes. But one of the clear indications we have of what's happening that I want to focus on is the strong demand for Pitt education. And I just want to remind everyone, through almost all of these slides, the fall 2022 numbers are still not final, so you may see that on some of the graphs. On the Pittsburgh campus, we have seen steady and then extraordinary growth, with a 92% increase in the number of applicants who want to come to Pitt since 2013. In fact, over last year alone, the increase is 53%, one of the highest year-over-year jumps anywhere in the country. Now, in general, applications are on the rise nationally, but this kind of growth is spectacular. It's really out of the ordinary. On the international side, you know, the story that we all talked about over the years was the impact of COVID with the travel restrictions. But what you will see is that international applications for all campuses to the University of Pittsburgh has been steady through the pandemic. In fact, the pandemic years are barely noticeable, and yet we still are benefiting from a post-pandemic rebound here. This actually is bucking the national trend, where most schools saw sharp declines in international application and interest because of all the travel restrictions. For the fall 2022, these applications are up 73%. This is another encouraging sign when you consider the importance of our global students and giving all of our students that global perspective here at Pitt. Another crosscut I'd like to look at is our students who come from the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania residents we continue to see in large numbers, and in fact, a record number of applicants from the state in the last year. What I want to draw your attention to is that the Pennsylvania demand is not solely from Western Pennsylvania. It's statewide. And in fact, you can see that the percentage drawing from Western Pennsylvania as a share of the total has actually declined a little bit as our demand across the state has grown very strongly. And if you doubt me, come on campus when the Philadelphia teams are here, and you will see how many students we have from the eastern side of the state. As the university has grown, we have benefited. As we attract students from a wide geographical range, we begin to experience the racial and ethnic diversity and see it grow across our campus. The student diversity across all campuses, and here we've broken it out between white and all non-white students, has continued to become more diverse, with that percentage increasing from 17% up to 27% today. We expect that trend to continue over the years as, again, reflecting both the broad reach of the university, its efforts, and the changing pattern of applications across the country. While the size is up, this demand is very high. I also want to reflect on the fact that the quality of our incoming students is extraordinary. With test optional, we now look to other measures to sort of indicate that. One is to look at the weighted GPA average for the incoming class. 4.16 is the highest weighted GPA in Pitt's history here on the Pittsburgh campus. But if I were to show you the regional campus data, you would see the same thing, going from about 3.8 to now 4.0. So we continue to see not only large demand, but extraordinarily high quality demand on all campuses for the university. Another measure of our academic success is how we support our students. One of the largest single investments we have made during my tenure is in student support, specifically in financial aid support for our students. Our overall investment in financial aid for students has gone up 114%, and continues to grow. This more than doubles the total dollar investment we had in student aid when I arrived here. When you double that institutional support, several things happen. One is the reach. In other words, how many students are benefiting from this financial aid. Since 2013, we have doubled the number of students we reach with financial aid. That number is now up 112%. And as I said, this is the largest single area of growth over the past decade in our budget. Not only the number of students receiving aid, but we have doubled the average dollar amount per student. It is also up dramatically, up 117%. And for projecting for the current year, fiscal year 23, looking at preliminary data on the incoming class, that number would be 144% over this period of time. So dramatic growth in the amount of student aid support we're giving, the number of students reached. The result of this is when we look at unmet need, that identified financial need that students have, the amount of unmet need has been steadily dropping. It's now down 15% on our campus. And I should say this is a more complicated graph than you would know because it reflects the different socioeconomic trends that are happening on different campuses. But the bottom line is our students are experiencing less unmet financial need than they were before, and we continue to strive ultimately towards the goal of reducing or eliminating unmet financial need overall. In a time when we're talking a lot about student debt, I want to highlight one of our key programs we inaugurated, the Panthers Forward. It was one of our most innovative programs to address access and affordability, particularly at the debt level. To date, over 600 graduating seniors have participated in this program. They receive $5,000 in student debt relief, loan forgiveness. In return, they make a non-binding pledge to pay it forward by giving back to the University of Pittsburgh as they can. Their average debt in this cohort has been reduced by 20%, and as a cohort, they are continuing to engage and work, so there's a major alumni engagement feature to this now. The class of 2023 is currently applying for the Panthers Forward program. Of course, I talked about degrees. This is where our students become alumni, and over the past 9 years since I've been here, you can see the University of Pittsburgh is, each year we do about 10,000 degrees and certificates. That represents 90,000 new alumni in our region, really remarkable. One of the things we look at as an early indicator of success is what's called the placement rate. Now, this occurs really only 6 months after graduation, and it's a measure of what percentage of our students are placed, and that can mean continuing their educational journey or working or in a service program or in the military or starting a business. It's always been good here at Pitt. We've enjoyed the sort of 94% placement rate almost every year. This year it surged to 97%, and we're really pleased with that. Of course, the strong economic conditions, I'm sure, are contributing to this, but it really also reflects the hard work to supporting our newest graduates as they make that transition from college. Of course, our students are also recognized for their achievements. The prestigious honors earned by our students and our new graduates. These awards allow our graduates to pursue advanced degrees, service opportunities, research experiences, often around the world. Pitt alumni and students over the past decade have earned some of the highest academic honors that are available. And though I'm focused here on the student honor totals, we could show you a similarly parallel list of the prestigious awards that our faculty have earned, where their scholarship and activities are being recognized around the world. In the world of rankings, the university is highly recognized for its excellence in research, scholarship, tech transfer. It's known for the quality of many of its specific programs in specialty areas and schools, and that is annually reflected in the large number of rankings that I proudly share with this board over the course of the year, all the way from health sciences to business and everything in between. I wanted to highlight a particular one, though, that's a little bit interesting because it doesn't come from the ranking agencies. In the area of international studies or global studies, global standing is provided through a competition through the U.S. Department of Education funding awards, which recognize National Resource Center grants. These are grants issued to international studies programs. It's highly competitive, and in a typical category, nationally, only 8 to 12 programs are recognized. The university has 6 different global centers. This year, for the first time in Pitt's history, all 6 were recognized with National Research Center grants. This is $12 million of revenue coming to the university to support these programs, and it puts us in a very small universe of universities that have achieved similar recognition, less than a handful. Let me turn now to the question of campus life. And what I mean by campus life is that there's more to success, a student's success, than what happens in the classroom. So this is all of the things that we surround students with, where they live, where they do co-curricular activities. It's all of the services, facilities, and programs that enable our academic mission. Let me turn first to the built environment. We're on a campus, at a place, and this environment can't be separated really from the Pitt experience. This is, after all, where we live, do research, socialize, and study. And it's designed for our welfare, and it supports our programs. You know, in the first plan for Pitt, when I first arrived, we decided to embark on the first ever campus master plan. We had always had facility master plans that looked forward 5 or 6 years. Here we looked forward 30 years. To identify the needs of the university and do that in partnership with the neighborhoods around us. We used it, this master planning document is then used to create other planning documents like the institutional master plan, which is a legally binding document signed by the mayor, approved by the city council. It includes details related to city regulations, building heights, parking, and so forth. But we also use it as a planning tool within the university to identify our needs. If you look at our progress, we have now approved an ambitious roadmap using this master plan as a guide, and we're using it to maximize the possibilities for this campus. And you'll see some of the projects that have been activated from the strategic, from the master plan. Many of these are completed or underway. And they include some of the very visible projects like Victory Heights and the Recreation and Wellness Center. This same planning methodology has been extended to our regional campuses, incorporating their strategic needs and looking at how those facilities can help those campuses move to new high-demand areas in their markets. And you'll see some of the key projects from across our regional campuses here, including facilities needed for our engineering specialties, nursing, and information technology. One of the other things we do as a community is operate responsibly. And that means ensuring that our campus operations support our collective responsibilities in sustainability and supporting our requirements against climate change. Over time, we have made specific commitments to use sustainable landscape design, reduce food waste, reduce energy use intensity, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, including a commitment to reduce them by 50% by 2030, and of course our goal to reduce net carbon emissions on the Pittsburgh campus entirely by 2037. This chart shows the different elements of our greenhouse gas emission reductions, and according to this chart, we are still on track. We are beating our targets year over year. So that's a lot of hard work behind that project in both our operations and our facilities. A core responsibility of ours is to provide a safe environment. One standard measure of the safety for any institution is the OSHA recordable rate, which is basically a calculation that's the number of employees per 100 full-time employees that experience a reportable injury or illness. Now, the Pittsburgh campus has long enjoyed a very strong safety performance, well below the national average. But you'll see since 2014, this rate has been in steady decline. And those of you who work with this in your companies know this is a very significant achievement. Another form of safety we take seriously is look at reducing crime and improving public safety awareness on our campus. This is an area, again, the chart doesn't show all the hard work behind this. Not only the national experts who work and train with our police force and our officers, but commitments we've made to bring our community, our students, faculty, and staff, and our neighborhood in partnership with our police force to work in concert and really bring a community policing here. The result, of course, has been a safer environment, a declining crime rate, and most importantly, more trust between the police and the community they're here to protect. In a community this large, there's a wide range of services, resources, and accommodations that are needed to support students, faculty, and staff of various abilities so they have the resources they need to be successful. over the pandemic, the need for disability services, these types of accommodations, has been rising dramatically. And as a result of our more diverse and larger student population in the pandemic, you'll see a significant uptick in the number of students and employees who have registered for and received disability services and accommodations since my arrival. You know, earlier I showed the impact of our growing reach on student diversity. You know, we've been working hard to make similar progress on our employees. Here, the overall racial and ethnic diversity among Pitt employees has risen 58% since I've been here. We are becoming steadily more representative, more inclusive, and more vibrant. And this continues to be a priority for us, not only in recruiting faculty and staff, but in our retention and career progression in all areas. We want this to be a great place to work as well as to study. Since 2014, the staff of the University Counseling Center. Now, this is the center that provides the mental health and counseling services to our students. And as many of you know, this is an area of enormous national demand. And the reason we're looking at staff counts here is this is a measure of the amount of service we can provide. And you can see that the number of employees has more than doubled. And this has allowed us to support our community by responding to the ever-growing need for community services. And I might note, reduce the waiting time and wait list to near zero. When it comes to protecting our students and employees on campus, one of the landmark civil rights piece of legislation that we have to pay attention to is Title IX. This is the legislation that bars discrimination by sex in schools or educational programs. And you know, prior to 2013, this was largely, most visibly, in the context of parity in athletics between men's and women's sports. But it became very clear that the problem of sexual assault and misconduct created a very meaningful discrimination in the educational context. And Title IX is now a very broad set of programs that support education, resource, information, compliance, and advocacy for members of the campus community. And as you'll see, the engagement of the community with this program is growing steadily, and that's a good sign when our community is turning towards those programs. Let me turn now to research, which is, as many of you know, one of the primary activities of most universities, but in particular, major research universities like the University of Pittsburgh. There's many ways to look at the research productivity and output of a university, but one of the ones we often turn to is simply the amount of sponsored research expenditures. How much are we spending on research that is funded through research grants and contracts? In fiscal year 2022, Pitt research expenditures exceeded $1 billion for the first time. We've talked about this recently, and this puts us in very exclusive company. You know, despite the pandemic disrupting pretty much every aspect of our daily life, including supply chains across the globe, it really is remarkable to me that our research staff have been able to continue this trend with almost no discernible impact over that period of time. Now, for Pitt, federal support is far and away the largest contributor to Pitt's research funding, but I want to note that industry funding, which has been our priority for growth, has more than doubled, rising 119% over this period. One way to put this in perspective is, according to the National Science Foundation, there are 21 American institutions that have more than $1 billion of research expenditure. Pitt is number 15 on that list. And you can see our closest peers would be universities like Texas A&M, Yale, University of Maryland, the University of Texas, and the MD Anderson Cancer Center. The other thing I want to note is that these are fairly clustered. There's very little difference between some of these schools, and so until you move up to the ones with the large federally funded research and development centers, which are quite different. Another way of looking at the research productivity of university is to see what happens to the discovery-based research, the knowledge that we produce. So translation of discovery into products and services is a key measure of our research impact, and so we look closely at innovation and commercialization as essential elements of our university research activity. Since 2015, Pitt researchers have submitted over 300 invention disclosures annually, and patent issuance is up 42%. You know, again, putting this into perspective, the annual rankings of the National Academy of Inventors and the Intellectual Property Owners Association show Pitt now climbing to the list of the top university recipients in U.S. utility patents worldwide. This last year, we ranked 18th in the world with 104 such patents. This is a high water mark for the university, rising from position of 20 the year before and position 28 the year before that. So we're moving up very quickly. And I want to highlight one very distinct area of growth for the University of Pittsburgh, and that's in what's called community engaged scholarship. What this refers to is work, research work, and activity and services that happen in partnership and with communities. Of course, many of you know one of our most distinctive elements in this program are our community engagement centers, essentially university extension offices that we've placed in our very neighborhoods here in Pittsburgh as places for this collaboration and support to occur. But the rapidly growing domain of university scholarship and service in our communities, Pitt is now gaining national recognition, and two significant honors for our research efforts in partnership with communities are highlighted here. This is one of the distinctive strengths of the University of Pittsburgh, where we are gaining a lot of national attention, international attention. So as I talk about communities, let's turn to how the University of Pittsburgh supports our region. The only beneficiaries of the university are not just the students. We know that we have a big effect on the region and the people who live here. In fact, as we saw just this week, visitors from around the world are coming to Pittsburgh to see the economic transformation that has happened based on this eds and meds economy that we are part of. So one of the things I want to showcase here is that the economic and community impact is actually broader than you might realize. So let's look first at just the economic impact, the direct economic impact of the University of Pittsburgh in this region. In 2014, we generated about $3.7 billion in overall economic impact. This year, last year, we estimated is now $5.2 billion. That's a 41% increase. This means that the jobs supported and sustained from our activity are up 70%. That means we are essentially supporting more than 47,000 jobs in the region and generating more than $271 million in local and state taxes. Another measure is just look at all the alumni that we have trained who live and work here in the region. Let's look at the ones in Pennsylvania. Our alumni are our greatest economic drivers. As of last year, there are almost 200,000 Pitt alumni in Pennsylvania. That means they are all contributing to their communities, growing businesses, providing services, and paying taxes. That number means that today, approximately 1 in 32 workers here in Pennsylvania is a Pitt alumnus. And with their Pitt credentials, they stand to earn more and credential and contribute back into the economy throughout their lives. Our construction activity also creates thousands of jobs. Most of these are highly skilled union positions. Jobs generated by Pitt construction, we were in decline at one time in the past decade, but we have rebounded since and have increased across most years. And you can see that here. It's important to remember, though, that the dollars that we spend in the region need to benefit everyone. And we want this to be a significant effect broadly on our community. So we strive to be an anchor institution, one that provides opportunity for everyone. And for several years then, we've begun to track where do our dollars go, and for example, how often do they go to women or minority-owned businesses? Through focused efforts, we've been able to ensure that our spending has become more equitable across our region. And you'll see that here in growth in our spending to women-owned and minority-owned businesses. Another service the university provides is through our Small Business Development Corporation, our SBDC. We maintain the Small Business Development Center, our Institute for Entrepreneurial Excellence, and it has the specific purpose of supporting and advising local businesses and entrepreneurs. And you can see the dramatic growth of that service. And I just want to point out, in 2020, our SBDC was named the #1 such program in the United States by the U.S. Small Business Administration. And it's also, so that's tremendous, and I want to thank everyone that works in that program. I wanted to call out, though, what we meant to the region during the pandemic looked a little bit different because the needs of the community were so different during the pandemic. So let me quickly highlight sort of 3 examples. In 2021, we decided to expand the ability of students to spend their meal plan funds off campus. And we did that because we wanted to help the small business owners weather the economic downturn that was caused by the pandemic. So we were able to nearly triple student spending in these local businesses, and you can see the enormous growth of revenue that provided them at a very important time. Similarly, it was Pitt volunteers who were essential to maintaining and operating the many vaccination clinics in our region. We had over 1,800 volunteers led by our health science schools who worked in the vaccine clinics providing this important service during the pandemic. And the Pitt community stepped up in many ways over the past years. It wasn't just vaccines, but we trained health workers, we brought computers to communities, we broadcast broadband into neighborhoods, we extended our help desk that we have for our employees and staff to the communities around us, and did so much more. This really reflects the enormous generosity of our community, and as you know, every year we participate in the United Way. Our employees have the opportunity to participate in that campaign, and since 2014, our community has contributed more than $6.3 million into the United Way. Another powerful symbol of how the Pitt community gives back. Let me now turn to instead of looking outward from the university, let me turn very much inward. I want to look at the institution itself, because this is something we seldom celebrate. It's often unseen, but the university is enabled by a broad range of services and systems and structures and management activities and administrative functions that we have been working incredibly hard to rebuild, enhance, or expand. And I just want to note, this has been something that I believe will have lasting benefit to the University of Pittsburgh, touching almost every activity that we have here, from our finances, our planning, our integrity, ethics, oversight, policy, and I just want to thank all of the members of the administration, our staff, our shared governance, I see our officers in the back row, who have worked with us to make this happen. This is really important and, as I said, often unheralded. Another measure of the success of a university, or of its health, I would say, is our financial health. We need to have the resources to do what we do, and one of the ways I'm going to tell you that the university's financial position is fundamentally very strong, but rather than go through a standard balance sheet presentation, I'd like to do a little bit of a deep dive on the revenue side of our budget and talk about the trends that have been there, because I think this is important to understand. I already talked about the research grants, and we've seen tremendous growth in the research funding coming into the University of Pittsburgh. But now let's take a look at the other core operating revenues that support the university. Let's start with state funding. In partnership with Pitt, the state, through the Commonwealth System of Higher Education, provides an annual appropriation that helps fund the in-state discount for Pennsylvania students and their family. I suspect you've heard me say this recently. This in-state discount is really important. It provides that support that Pennsylvania students need to come to Pitt over the course of their undergraduate career, graduate program, and it, on average, represents about $60,000 of benefit over their college time here. The Commonwealth support during my time here has been steady and increasing. I don't want people to forget that, because we're often talking about the process. And in fact, it's risen 13% through 2014. But to put that in context, in inflation-adjusted dollars, that's still relatively flat. So we have not gone backwards. But as other parts of the university revenue have grown, it does mean that state support has dropped a little bit in the overall percentage of the university's revenue. It now represents about 6% of our total budget, whereas when I started it was about 7%. So in that situation, it's been a good story, but one of stability. Similarly, let me turn now to tuition and fees. Tuition and fees are, of course, another very important source of revenue for the university, but it's also one that actually represents a decreasing percentage of our total revenues. Now that throws people off, because if you look at the gross tuition, which is what is charged before financial aid, our tuition, gross tuition, that's the total height of the bars on this graph, by the way, that's risen 27% over this 10-year period. But as I mentioned before, we increased our financial aid expenditures by 62% over the same period. So we charge the tuition and we give it back as financial aid. If you look at the net, which is really the revenue the university has to spend, the net revenue that we receive from tuition has risen only 17% over this entire decade. Again, in inflation-corrected terms, this is essentially flat. And you'll see in several years it was actually declining. Let me turn to some others that start to show what's happening. The other, another major revenue source are the distributions from our endowment. So endowment, as you all know, is the corpus of funds that are invested, and the gains from those investments are returned to the university to provide a source of revenue in perpetuity. Our endowment now returns $187 million to the budget each year. This is up 83% since 2014. And the beneficiaries of those funds, often directed by donor intent, is predominantly to our students through scholarships, aid, academic support, and as well as faculty positions. And as you know, the university took a position for any unrestricted funds we designated, we self-restricted those to benefit student financial aid. So that's been one of our growth areas, and I think that's really important to understand as we look at the financial health of the university. The engine behind that is, of course, fundraising. So let me turn a little bit to look at the health of our voluntary gifts and donations to the University of Pittsburgh. You know, we've been working hard to strengthen and expand our reach in fundraising and engagement, and these efforts are now just beginning to really pay off. One measure of that, of course, is the total amount of new gifts and commitments that are made in a given year. And over this period, this is up 138%, which is remarkable. But of course, that varies across the university, so some areas are seeing even faster growth. And I'll highlight our athletics fundraising, which is up 294% over the same period of time. Another measure of future success is the number of first-time donors. They're up significantly. Now, we saw a little bit of a pandemic downturn, which most institutions experienced, but we have seen a very rapid rebound and recovery. And as many of you know, one of our signature events to drive the new donor engagement, that participation, is the Pitt Day of Giving, where we focus on participation and engagement rather than on dollar amounts, and create this fun and vibrant opportunity to bring new people into the experience of supporting the university. The amount of money we receive, of course, is driven more by the larger gifts. So let's look at the major gift category. So major gifts are defined as those gifts over $100,000. And again, this is seen steady growth over this period, up 43% over this period. We did experience a very small pandemic dip, and again, a very strong post-pandemic rebound. I guess I can say post-pandemic since the president said it was over, so. There are other levels, of course. So a transformative gift is a gift of $10 million or more. Now, of course, you don't have as much of those, so it doesn't make as nice a chart. But I want to point out, we've received 9 of those gifts of $10 million or more since 2014. But 7 of the 9 have occurred in the last 2 years during the pandemic, which is very encouraging. So this information summarizes our fundraising progress. But I just have to tell you, when it comes to this, the numbers don't tell the whole story, because these gifts have a personal side. And I'm just going to use our 2 most recent examples. The gift that Trustee David Frederick and his wife Sophie made to name the Honors College is going to enhance the experience of our Honors College students. That's the impact. The $100 million gift that the Richard K. Mellon Foundation is here to transform the economy of our region by catalyzing commercial life science sector. That's the real story of philanthropy, the real story of impact that happens here as partners, friends, alumni support the university and work together with us to reshape it and improve it for our benefit and for the benefit of the students and our region. My goal in this presentation today was to summarize a select number of achievements over the past year, but I did want to put them in the context of what we've done over this last nearly a decade of working together, because sometimes the real story is written over time in that journey. And when I look at this, the takeaway for me is clear. We have some amazing forward momentum. We really are on the right track. But what makes that positive story even more remarkable to me is that we did this in the face of historic headwinds, a global pandemic, economic and social upheaval, uncertainty about the future of higher education in the United States. We have not been immune from those headwinds. In fact, in many cases, they're not even resolved. They're still there, and it's still our mission to do what all great universities do, to lean in and tackle the great problems of the day. But it's worth noting that we've achieved all this by working together during a difficult time. And I just want to say, this would not have been possible without you. Each and every person in this room, in whatever capacity or role you play for the university, has been with us and have been central to creating this momentum. And I know that this kind of success doesn't happen by small groups. This is about linking arms, working together to bring the enormous collection of talent, energy, creativity, and resources of a major university together with the purpose of our mission, which is to make the world a better place through knowledge. And for that, I just want to acknowledge each and every one of you in the Pitt family for the role you've played in this remarkable story. On behalf of the university, I want to thank you. And I just want to say it's been the privilege of my professional life to have served alongside with you. We are an amazing university, and I'm so proud to be part of it. Thank you for giving me that opportunity as well. Thank you.
Let me first of all thank the Chancellor for his excellent report, but more importantly on behalf of the board and hopefully on behalf of the larger Pitt community, let me thank the Chancellor and his team for the leadership that they have continued to provide in helping move forward our great university. Much appreciated, Chancellor. Thank you. Are there any questions for the Chancellor regarding his report? Okay. If not, is there any new business to be brought before the board today? Again, if not, let me thank all of you for joining us today. We continue to look forward to working together to move Pitt upward in that upward trajectory that we're on right now. Have a great weekend. Hail to Pitt, and thank you. This meeting is now adjourned.